Hi, I'm Lily Donovan, and this is my story or whatever. My family's been a bit of a mess since forever. Got a sister, Ellie, who's sort of like the crown jewel at home because of her bad heart. Our mom, yeah, she's fixated on Ellie. With Ellie being born sickly, she got extra eyes on her, extra care. Mom was always shadowing her, making sure she was breathing okay, eating right, or was warm enough. Almost like I'm part of the furniture. Anyway, Dad was different. He was my champ. When I needed something, he was my go-to. He'd listen, not just nod along, but actually listen. Ellie, though, she got all the attention without even trying, and the drama, tons of it. Take one morning at the breakfast table for example. I was on my second cup of coffee, flipping through some job listings. Dad was at the other end, eyeing the sports section like it had the meaning of life tucked in there. Then in breezes Ellie, all theatrics, like she's about to drop some Shakespearean tragedy on us. So, the doc says my heart's acting up again, Ellie says, all breathless and expecting a scene. Mom's up from her seat, like someone lit a fire under her, asking, "What does that mean, hon? You feeling okay? You need anything?" Ellie, "Nah, I'm fine. But the vacation's off. Doctor's orders." Dad stops looking at his paper and goes, "That's rough, kiddo." Me, I'm just silent. Because what's there to say? Every little thing about Ellie's sickness tosses our family into chaos. But before I can even shrug, Mom's looking at me with those eyes. You know the type, like I've suddenly kicked a puppy by being quiet. And out of nowhere, I decide to toss in my 2 cents, maybe it's not the end of the world, right? Mom almost jumps at me. "Lily, can't you see your sister's struggling?" Ellie just slurps her juice, watching the show. I shrug. Just saying. There's worse stuff out there, ain't there? Ellie puts her glass down and says, "Nice, sis. Real supportive." Dad finally puts down the paper like he's about to referee a boxing match. "Ease up on your sister, Ellie." But Mom ain't having it, she can at least act like she cares. I push back from the table, this is the same old song and dance. I tell them straight, "Look, Ellie plays sick and we all gotta dance. I'm sick of it." Literally. Ellie's eyes go all wide like she can't believe I'd say that, but come on, it's been the story of my life. Dad gets that I'm fed up, and tries to smooth things over. Let's all just calm down. But I've already grabbed my jacket. Walking out, I toss over my shoulder, "I'll be back when the drama's done." You can bet they had a lot to say after I left, but honestly, for once, it was nice not to hear it. Dad understood, Mom was pissed, and Ellie, well, Ellie was Ellie. That's family for you. My sights were set on college, it was my out. It wasn't just about getting away, it was about getting somewhere. Grades had been my weapon of choice, and I wielded them well. I scored a ticket to a good school, a scholarship to boot. Ellie, despite everything, made it to college too, though it was clear her path there was marked by a different set of expectations. She was out to prove something, but I still wasn't quite sure what. "You gotta aim high, Lil," Dad said once as we cleared plates, his hand landing heavy and sure on my shoulder. "Don't let anyone dim your lights, hear me?" "Yeah, Dad. I hear ya." I smiled, tucking those words close. It was the quiet fuel I needed. To soar. To escape. To be more than just Lily Donovan, sister to the kid with the weak heart, daughter to a mother with uneven scales. College was a different world. I had my nose in the books, pushing hard to make something of myself. Ellie, she just couldn't hack it. She was lost, floundering in seminars and lectures, like she was trying to read a map with no legend. She dropped the news on me like a bomb, the tinny voice from my cell speaker signaling surrender. "College ain't my jam, Lily," Ellie said, her words lackluster. "I'm dropping out." I balanced the phone between my ear and shoulder, multitasking between the call and my constitutional law textbook. "You're bailing? Just like that? Got better things lined up than being a brain like you," she snapped back. There was a heavy dose of her trademark venom in her voice. The same one that could turn from sweetie to serpent in a single sentence. So, what? You're skipping off into the sunset with the first guy who bats an eye? I snorted. Exactly, she hissed. Someone's gotta live a little while you bury yourself in those dusty books. Wouldn't want to die alone with cats as my only company. I squeezed the bridge of my nose. Ellie could never resist a jab. Next thing I knew, I was sitting in the back of a dimly lit church, law book hidden in my lap, as Ellie strutted down the aisle. She had nabbed herself a husband before she'd even figured out who she was. It was like she was playing life's game without bothering to learn the rules. After the I do's, she swanned over with her glass raised, smirking like she'd won some sort of race. Cheers to me, the married woman, and to you, Lily, maybe you'll graduate to cat lady soon? She snickered, cruelty wrapped in a toast. I bit back the anger, knowing Ellie relished any sign of getting under my skin. Maybe, but at least I'll have a law degree to hang on the wall. Cats or not. Her eyes narrowed. You think you're better than me, with your big dreams of being a hotshot lawyer? As she flittered away to go cut the cake, a part of me wanted to scream. I wanted to shake some sense into her. But I stayed in my seat, the anger simmering. Back on campus, I poured myself more into my studies. The late nights were my fortress from Ellie's barbed comments. Every essay, every exam was another brick in my walls, fortifying my future against her cynicism. Ellie and I were on divergent paths, she, reveling in the now with a sharp tongue, and I, building a foundation for tomorrow with gritted teeth. That was just the way of it. You can't pick your family. But you sure as hell can pick which of their words to listen to. And Ellie's? I was learning to let them go like seeds in the wind, insignificant and unworthy of taking root. Turning 30 hit different. The job at Uncle John's law firm was steady. Every day in court was like a chess game. I'd become good at it, keeping my cool under those fluorescent lights. Mark and I had been an item since who knows when. We figured, why not make it official? So we planned to. Dad's been gone a while now. I don't bring it up much. Stuff happened, he's not here, we move on. That means I've kind of been both the rock and the hard place for myself. When I said to Mom and Ellie, hey, I'm marrying Mark in a bit, they just shrugged. That's nice, Mom said without looking up from her cards. Ellie? She couldn't even pause her TV show. I heard her mumble a congrats, buried under a heap of reality show noise and screams of her children. Where is her husband Dave? He was almost never at home. Living with Uncle John's sometimes biting sense of legal wisdom wasn't much different. I'd tell him about the upcoming wedding and he'd just grunt. You sure about the prenup? Romance isn't exactly our family style. So here I am, 2 weeks out, and it's all about the bare minimum. I want a quiet do. Some folks would take Mom and Sis ignoring the whole deal like a punch. I take it like a typical Tuesday. No help? No problem. It's just Mark and me, and that's plenty. I draft my own contracts by day, iron out merge clauses, and at night, I scroll through potential honeymoon spots on my phone. No fluff, just picking a place to unwind. After the case I just cracked, I need it. Weddings bring out strange in folks, I guess. Mom suddenly caught up with her bridge club, acting like playing cards is her full-time job. I dropped by to give her an update on the no-fuss dress I picked, not that she asked. She barely glances up, don't stress. It'll be fine. Full house. I should have knocked. Cool, Mom, I say, but I'm talking to the wall, because she's dealing cards again. Ellie's the same. She calls, and it's one crisis after another. I can't find a dress, she complains over the phone. Ellie, just wear something from your closet. She huffs like I've suggested hiking the Everest in flip-flops. Fine, she snaps. I go about my days, bits and pieces of the wedding falling together between deposition prep and client consultations. Mark's doing his share, but mostly he's just keeping me sane. Always a joke ready to diffuse my stress like a bomb squad pro. I handle the indifferences from Mom and Ellie the same way I manage everything else, with a little nod and a lot of getting on with it. It's like being in the eye of my own personal hurricane, watching all the whirlwinds, but not really feeling them. I've gotten good at it, too good maybe. In the end, it's simple. I'm not walking down the aisle to make a statement. It isn't a parade or a show. It's just signing papers, making things official, a modest gather-up for a lifetime of more down-to-earth moments with Mark. He's the I do at the end of my very practical, very organized checklist. As for Mom and Ellie, well, they'll show up or they won't. The wedding will happen, and then life will roll on. It always does. I was mid-sentence with a contractor, haggling over the price of folding chairs, when Mom's call threw everything off balance. Her voice, usually as steady as a metronome, was all over the place, like a needle jumping grooves on a record. "Honey, Ellie's been left by her husband, with 2 kids," she said, and I could almost picture her hand fluttering to her chest, the way she does when the latest gossip hits. I was so stunned I almost dropped the phone. "What? You're joking." "No, dear. I wish I were. She's a mess. We're all in shock. It's just, would you consider postponing?" I bristled at the notion, felt that stubborn streak flare up. "Postpone? Mom, I've got a timetable tighter than a drum here. You know that." "But Ellie is going to have to deal with her own mess," I cut in, with an edge that said the discussion was closed. But Mom wasn't done. "She needs us, needs family. Maybe it's not a good time for a wedding?" I scoffed. "And when is it ever a good time, huh? Look, I'm sorry for Ellie, but life doesn't stop. Mine doesn't, at least." I turned to Mark, who had witnessed the tail end of the call, his eyebrows doing a high-wire act. "What now?" he asked, towing the line between concern and asking for the mess report. "Ellie's husband ditched her. Mom wants us to push back the wedding." His eyes widened slightly. "Wow. Are we?" I shook my head. "No way. We'd bent over backward for this family enough." He nodded, his hand finding my shoulder, a silent signal of support. "All right. But you okay with that?" I took a deep breath, somewhere between frustration and determination. "Hell yes. It's our turn, Mark. We've done the waiting, the pleasing. Remember?" "I remember," he said, that low voice steady as ever. "It's just family is." I raised a hand. "Don't say complicated. It's overrated." Mark chuckled, a low rumble in his chest. "All right, tough cookie. You call the shots." A mix of guilt and relief swirled in me, but I pushed it down. I had enough on my plate without adding second helpings of pity for Ellie. Life ensued. I went back to ticking off checkboxes, ignoring the clawing feeling that comes with not being the good guy. Or in this case, the good sister. The day didn't start off great, and I could tell it was only destined to nosedive from there. Mark was trying to steer clear of any drama, but somehow, we wound up accepting the dinner invite at Mom's place. "Just a family get-together," she'd said. But I knew better. As soon as we walked in, the air was heavy, kinda like walking into a wall. Mom had this stern look plastered on her face, and Ellie, my sister, she was already a few glasses in, eyes red and puffy like she's been crying or something. I barely got my coat off, before Ellie slurred out, "Lily, you gotta understand." Her voice wobbled like one of those wacky inflatable arm guys outside a car dealership. "I'm going through hell, and there you are parading your happiness around." She clutched at her heart out of habit. "But we all know that she is absolutely healthy now, her childhood illness has sunk into oblivion." Stiffening up, I shot back, "Ellie, it's not like that, and you know it. Stop playing the victim." Mark put a hand on my shoulder, urging me to ease up, but I was past fed up. Mom chimed in then, voice cold as ice. "Lily, we're just asking for a little compassion. Is that too much?" I could feel the temperature drop with her every word. Still, Mark and we were a united front. "We've planned this for a year," Mark said, his firmness a surprise even to me. It's not just Lily's call, it's mine too, and we're not postponing. Mom gave us a hard look, her lips pressed into a thin line. Ungrateful, she hissed at me. After all we've done for you. I snorted, narrowed my eyes. Ungrateful? Really? For what, exactly? That's when Mom dropped the real bomb, her voice a mix of fury and something that sounded like a twisted form of caring. If you can't cancel your wedding, then at least skip your honeymoon. Stay and watch your nieces and nephews. Give your sister a break to travel, let her heal. Mark snorted, disbelief coloring his chuckle. Are you serious right now? We're supposed to give up our honeymoon for Ellie's getaway? Ellie stood up, swaying a little as she leaned across the table with a sneer. Yeah, 'cause why should you be happy if I'm not? I stood up too, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Enough, Ellie. Life doesn't stop for you. I'm getting married, and I'm going on my honeymoon. End of discussion. Mom stared at us, eyes flinty. If you walk out that door, Lily, don't bother coming back. And if I stay, what? I get guilt-tripped and walked over my entire life? I snapped, already heading for the door. Mark was right behind me. Neither of us looked back, even as the door slammed shut with a sound that said more clearly than any words could, the line was drawn. It was us against them, and I was done playing by their crazy rules. I was knee-deep in Tool and Good Wishes when Uncle John's number lit up my phone. Ain't this the time when you're supposed to be getting pampered or something? Was his gruff opener when I answered. Yeah, well, you know how it goes. I replied, half laughing, despite the frustrations nipping at my heels. You got a minute? He asked. His voice had that no-nonsense edge to it that I remembered from when I was a kid. Sure, lay it on me, I said, stepping out onto the venue's balcony for some privacy. It's about your mom's latest request, Uncle John started, and I braced myself. Listen, kiddo, she tried to strong-arm me to cancel your vacation. No vacation, no honeymoon, says it's what family does, supports each other and all that jazz. I felt my hands clench around the phone. Is that right? I managed to say, trying to keep the ice out of my voice. Yeah, but don't worry, I told her where to shove it, Uncle John replied, and I could almost hear him spitting the words out. Uncle Jay, you didn't have to get involved, I said, the gratitude and stress mixing up inside me. I'll fight your corner any day. This is your time. You and Mark deserve to enjoy all of it, without any crap thrown your way. I just can't believe she's trying to ruin my wedding and break my honeymoon, I said, rubbing my temple. Stubborn as a mule, that sister of mine. He chuckled, but it was that kind of laugh that didn't reach the eyes. Anyway, I've got your back. You two just focus on tying the knot and then getting naughty on your own time, if you catch my drift. I laughed, a real laugh this time. Couldn't have said it better myself, Uncle. Course you couldn't. I'm the family wordsmith, he said, his voice proud as a peacock. Then he lowered it a notch. Remember, kiddo, you're doing nothing wrong. Go, get married, be happy. I promised I would and hung up, feeling a notch lighter, but with the weight of the whole situation still sitting on my chest like an unwelcome cat. The rehearsal dinner was buzzing when I got back. Mark caught my eye across the room and frowned when he saw my face. Everything okay? He mouthed. I nodded and made my way through a sea of relatives and friends, plastering on a smile like it was lipstick. Mark met me halfway, his hands finding mine, his eyes searching my face. You're worrying me, he said. It was Uncle John. Mom's trying to recruit him into her save the date but screw the honeymoon campaign. I sighed, feeling the whole thing splayed out again. He snorted. She's relentless. Like a dog with a bone, I agreed. But Uncle John's not biting. I swear, he's the only one actually standing up for us. Well, we've got each other. That's the main thing, Mark replied, and wrapped me in a hug that felt like armor against the world's crazy. The murmur of family and friends bubbled around us, all unsuspecting of the undercurrents they were swimming in. The table settings gleamed, glasses clinked, and laughter soared like fireflies in the evening light. As I lay down that night, with the stars wearing their best shine outside my window, I could only hope that our next chapter would be written on the bright side of this often too shadowed world. Mark's steady breathing in the dark was a promise and question all at once. It didn't matter what came next. His yes matched my yes, and that felt like the only answer we'd ever need. After what they tried to pull off, Mom and my sister said they wouldn't be caught dead at my wedding. They made sure everyone knew it too, telling anyone who'd listen that I was just a cold piece of work. They didn't stop there, though. They started spreading all sorts of nonsense around town about me, but you know what? It didn't matter one bit. The big day came, and it was nothing short of awesome. Our family and friends filled the place up. There were so many of them. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone was there, laughing and joking around. It was loud, and it was fun, and nobody brought up Mom and Sis. It was like we all agreed not to let them ruin the vibe. My bridesmaids were a whirlwind of activity. Girl, are those butterflies in your stomach? Or just the 2 bottles of champagne we guzzled? Lisa, always the joker, nudged me with her elbow as she adjusted my veil for the 100th time. Just excitement, I guess, I replied, my smile as wide as the horizon. Well, you look banging, Jen chimed in, her hands making tiny adjustments to my bouquet. Mark's gonna fall over when he sees you. The ceremony space was filled with the tunes of a string quartet digging into my favorite classics, nothing fancy, just raw music that filled the soul. Damn, can you believe you're about to get hitched? Lisa sighed, her tough tone softened a touch by the moment. Believe it? I planned it, down to the last petal. I laughed as I peeked through the crack of the door at the guests filtering in. The ceremony was a blur of words and emotions. When it came time to exchange vows, Mark's voice filled the room. I promised to keep it real, to be your partner in crime, to have your back, and make you laugh when life sucks. I took a deep breath, my hands shaking just a little. I promised to always be honest, to support your crazy schemes, to love you even when you leave your socks on the floor. The room erupted into laughter and cheers, the love tangible in the air, like the warmth of the spring sun coming through the windows. As husband and wife, you may now kiss the bride, the officiant announced, and Mark wasted no time. It was the kind of kiss that said we were in this for the long haul, for better, for worse, and hell, even for the mundane. Later, as the party wound down, Uncle John found me, his face a little shiny from the festivities. You did good, kid. And if anyone gives you trouble, you send them my way. I will, Uncle Jay, thanks for everything, I said, meaning every word. As the night drew to a close, and the last stragglers left, Mark and I stood hand in hand, taking in the moment. Ready to start this adventure? He asked, squeezing my hand. I've never been more ready for anything in my life, I replied, and we stepped out into the cool night air. We climbed into the car, cans clattering behind us, a playful, just married sign taped to the back. I looked over at Mark, his face illuminated by the streetlights as we drove away. This is it, he said, his hand finding mine. This is us, I said, feeling the truth of it settle in my bones. My new hubby and I took off to this cozy beach spot for our honeymoon. Just us, the sun, and the sea. It was like a week-long chill pill. And nope, I did not call Mom or Sis. Not once. And I didn't miss them either. Yeah, family's supposed to be your rock, right? But sometimes, you gotta build your own foundation. That's what I did, and it's solid. I don't need that kind of crazy in my life, and I'm not about to invite it back in.